everyone, welcome to a weekend live stream. I did not title this video, but I do have a planned topic for it. I thought I would just get on here today and talk for 40 minutes to an hour, somewhere in that range, about dark romance, which is a topic that a lot of you voted on Facebook. So if you're watching this video, thank you for watching. Hi to Forever Young X, Miles Marianne, and JP Prophet 32. Today's video, I'm just gonna do what I normally do in the videos. Hi Kira the Great, and go through the topics that I'm going to talk about and then get into sort of an introduction, wait for people to maybe get in and watch the video, and then get into everything else. So I think I have a lot to talk about today, and as you can see, I have coffee, but it is decaf again. I am trying to stick to the decaf, and I also have some water. There's going to be chapters read in this video, a little bit of quotes, and hopefully a little bit of everything. So it'll be a nice chilled out vibe for Saturday morning. And I am dressed like this because I'm going to, although I've been wearing this hat all week, I'm going to the gym right afterwards. So I am not as nicely dressed sometimes as I normally am. So the first thing, so the list of topics today, we're going to go through the Patreon update, book of the month. We're going to talk about dark romance. I have a book that I wanted to talk about with you today, which I'll share later. I'm going to read a little bit of that book out loud. And then we're going to talk about the reader polls that I've been doing on Facebook and go through some readers' opinions on things. And then I'm going to, if I have some time, talk about Ben and Libby's story just for a little bit longer. So what is going on Patreon? So this week I got on the live stream at 6 a.m. Every day just to be there with readers while chapters drop Monday through Friday. Now on the weekends, yes, I still post chapters. Yes, they still come out at 6:15, but I'm doing kind of like a later in the day stream for that. So there was a new chapter of Scorpio King posted to the Patreon this morning, and there have been a few new ones as well as up to chapter 29 in season 2 of Powerless up on Patreon right now for anyone who is subscribed. So what's coming up on Patreon, there will be a few more chapters of Powerless and then another break coming up. And in that time, there's also going to be a lot of Long Island Executioner and a lot of Scorpio King posted. So if you're interested in that dark mafia romance, those chapters will be coming soon. And if you are interested in Scorpio King, there are chapters of that ongoing. And I think I have up to chapter 6 scheduled on Patreon. So those will be dropping kind of intermittently. So we have a week with a lot of surprises, a lot of different things going on Patreon, but there's going to be something new to read every day. And today it's a somewhat long chapter up there. So if you're interested, it's patreon.com/Jamila Jasper, and that's where you can access a lot of behind the scenes stuff and new chapters posted every day. So the first thing I wanted to get into this video was the new 99-cent book of the month, and that is Cocky Cowboy. This book has gone through a few different transformations. This is the current version. It's available as an audiobook and a paperback and an ebook. Right now, the audiobook and the paperback are not discounted, but the ebook is discounted to 99 cents, and you can get it everywhere ebooks are sold. Smashwords, iBooks, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, all of these places you can get this book. So let's take a little look inside. You may notice it's on the shorter side. I would say this is like a long novella rather than a novel. Hi, Jonathan, MyHill54. And so this book, I think you'll get a lot out of it for 99 cents. It has a very suspenseful plot, and there are a lot of hot scenes in the book. This is a book about a divorcee named Nikki who goes to stay with an older white woman named Sam who has 2 strapping young sons. One of them is, they're both kind of bad boys, but one is worse than the other. There's a huge scandal in their town, and Nikki is at the scene of the crime, and she's sort of like an amateur detective trying to figure out what's going on as she stays on this woman's farm. Hi, Camille 2021. Thank you for joining. So this book, let's see, so I went through the couple, Kurt and Nikki, and the premise of the book, and I also, like I've been doing all of this week, want to go through my favorite part of this book, and for me, it is their first time together. That was definitely my favorite part of this specific book. So I think you'll like this book. It's very steamy. It's not super dark in terms of the relationship. I would say it's more like a romantic suspense and a small town romance than a dark romance. So if you are interested in a small town romantic suspense, a divorcee main character, I'm pretty sure I based the appearance of this main character, I'm pretty sure it was very heavily inspired by Gabrielle Union. At the time, I was going through a big Gabrielle Union phase, and the cowboy archetype that I went for with Kurt, I also really liked. He's kind of like a more sweet dominant. He's not as gruff as some of my other dudes. It's kind of like, it's more like a gruff exterior, but really he's kind of a teddy bear. So this story is 99 cents everywhere that ebooks are sold. And I actually wanted to read to you guys a little quote from this book that I picked out if you haven't heard from it before. So this is going to be just a couple paragraphs from Cocky Cowboy. And don't forget that the book is 99 cents everywhere ebooks are sold. With that, Kurt reached for my shirt, pulling it over my head and tossing it onto the ground. I wrapped my thighs around him, yanking him closer to me, and then grabbing his cotton t-shirt to remove it with the same force. With his plain white t-shirt on the ground, I glimpsed his perfect, beefy body for the first time. His work in the fields meant rippling muscle covered every inch of him. His body stood sturdy before me, with a heaving six-pack and biceps that bulged with each motion of his arm. His blonde hair fell down to his neck, and as he pressed his body close to mine to kiss me again, I became petite in his arms. To him, I was weightless. He cupped my ass cheeks, pulling me closer to kiss him, and I ran my hands down his six-pack as we made out. He gyrated his hips into me, his hardness throbbing to attention as heat ignited between us. When I couldn't stand the heat anymore, and my heart beat so hard in my chest I could hear it, he pulled away from me. "Upstairs. We can't do this here," he said. I nodded in a daze, and we picked up the evidence of our tryst and scampered upstairs to his bedroom. I'd never entered Kurt's room before. His room was simple, neat, and masculine. The scent of his aftershave that I sometimes caught hints of in the bathroom upstairs was stronger here. He closed the door behind him, and I'd entered his realm. He turned the lock. "Get out of those pants," he commanded. "Now." So that is our little excerpt. Hi, Jupiter Williams 92. Thank you for joining. That is our little excerpt. I just wanted to give you a little taste of what's in this book. I think this book there have been a lot of ups and downs. Maybe I'll kind of talk about some of the very past drama that surrounding this story. This story actually came out in 2017, so I'm guessing a lot of readers have read it. If you have not, it's 99 cents this month, and I do occasionally throw links up where you can get the audiobook for free if you're a first-time Audible listener, so you might like that too. I'm not really sure what you're into, but you know, I just wanted to get on here and announce that today because the discount is new today and Pretty Little Monster is no longer 99 cents. So we have a new book of the month that we're celebrating. Yay. So next, I wanted to talk about dark romance in general. Readers voted for first, second chance romance and second dark romance on topics when I posted to Facebook. And so let's talk a little bit about dark romance. So what makes a dark romance? I would say dark romances basically push the boundary of what's okay. You have morally gray or outright morally corrupt heroes. There's a little bit of dubcon sometimes, so that means like dubious consent, where things are on the darker side of life. The plot lines also tend to cover dark subjects like rape, incest, murder, sexual violence of any kind, and other forms of violence. So all of these you'll find in dark romance plots. It's not necessarily like a romantic comedy where you're going to feel sweet and mushy. They're definitely supposed to be a little bit suspenseful. And I think with dark romance books, you have a lot of people who really feel passionately against them because they don't like the morally gray characters. But if you are okay with morally gray characters or morally bankrupt characters, then you will like dark romance. I think that some people also get bothered by, you know, the discussion of like the rape, the other forms of violence, murder, explicit subjects like that. But if you are not bothered by those types of explicit subjects, or you enjoy stories that kind of touch on these taboo and forbidden subjects, dark romance is as close as you can get to outright taboo without being banned from posting on the internet. And I think that appeals to some people, but it turns some people away. So what are my dark romance books? Basically everything published after the book that I'm going to talk about today, this series, which is a short series, which is why the whole series is in this collection. Everything I published after that more or less is dark, unless I explicitly said that it was not dark. So where did it all begin? It definitely started with this. This was originally 4 separate novellas. So this is, you can't see it, Tuck and Anijah's Steamy Quartet. This was originally 4 novellas. It's still 4 novellas in this book. So Fraternity Plaything, Fraternity Housemaid, Fraternity Playmate, and Fraternity Girlfriend. And this is a college romance story. It's a dark, it was definitely my first dark bully romance, and which is why they were novellas, because I honestly did not know if I would take to liking those books and enjoying writing them. However, for novellas, I found this series did really, really well with readers. And yes, many people were angry, but so many more people were just happy to have dark romance stories with a Black female lead. So bully romance is kind of a subcategory of dark romance where the male main character is a bully of the female main character a lot of the time, or he's part of the group of people bullying her. Either way, it's definitely kind of touches on the darkest themes of dark romance, which is, you know, liking someone who is what we would consider in real society abusive to you, but in the fictional world it is kind of viewed as sexy. Now, do I think if, you know, a guy shoves you into a locker and steals your underwear, you should try to get booed up with him? No. Is this basically what happens in a lot of dark romance and bully romance books? Yes. But the bullies be sexy, so you know, it's hard for us to resist a truly evil man trying to change his ways a little bit and maybe effing it up. And the scenes, and I feel like a lot of the sex and dark romance books can be better sometimes because it's more forbidden. And so it can be more exciting because of the added emotional tension from that. So after I wrote this was kind of where it all started with the serials and everything. So I'll get into the serials and all of that stuff after. Let's talk more about Tuck and Anijah's series. I have a little excerpt to read from this today, which I think you'll like, but I wanted to get deep into my first dark romance mini series of 4 novellas and discuss this book. So if you have read this book, let me know in the comments, either of the live stream or after, if you're watching the video. I am curious to know if you've only read one or a couple of the books in the series. Let me know. You can get all 4 of these. I had them discounted a couple months ago, so they won't be discounted again, but they're definitely cheaper if you get them all in the bundle, and the bundle is Tuck and Anijah's Steamy Quartet. So let's talk about who inspired what. So who inspired Tuck? Tuck is our main character. So let's get, first I gotta go back to the very beginning, my bad. The premise, what's this book about? So Tuck is our main male character, Anijah is our female main character. Tuck is a fraternity brother. He is the president of the Chi 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 fraternity. All the Greek life in this book is fictional. We'll get to that in a second. Tuck is the president, and Anijah is a pledge into a racist sorority, and as she is in this sorority where there are a lot of racist girls, she's trying to join the sorority for these personal deep reasons, but these girls are trying to make her life a living hell, and in order to bully and torture her, they more or less decide to assign her to Tuck as his personal sexual slave of sorts, let's say. Now, despite his exterior, I don't really think Tuck can quite bring himself to do what he has to do because he himself has some potentially negative motivations, but he is kind of a fuckboy low-key, so he is going to do what the negative things he has to do to Anijah to kind of maintain his big alpha male status on campus. But over the course of this series, you'll definitely see a lot of back and forth between the 2 characters. So my favorite part of this whole series, and because if you are don't want spoilers. This one might be kind of a spoiler, so close your ears. But there is a point I'll try not to make it too spoilery. There is a point in the series where after having had it up to here with Tuck, Anijah finally goes all the way and, let's say, destroys something very important to Tuck. And how he reacts to that is my favorite part of the series. So hello to everyone I haven't said hi to yet. Liz Libbard, Free Chick, VKP, Daisy Reeds, Endmaid777, and Chanel Jackson. Hello. Welcome, welcome. So now that I've gone through the basics, we can talk about who inspired Tuck. Tuck is my blonde, preppy monster. Tuck was inspired by the worst frat boy you can think of. However, appearance-wise, I definitely had envisioned a very tall, lean, muscular, sour-faced blonde man. I honestly feel like my cover models for this series really were working very close to what I had in mind. Tuck comes from money. He comes from racist money, old money, and he's very, very handsome, very emotionally guarded, and he exudes privilege every step of the way. He does not really understand a world where people say no to him, and he has real power on their campus socially, being the fraternity president. He has social power as a white male, and he leans into it. He is not afraid to claim his alphaness, let's say, in this book, and that definitely rubbed some readers the wrong way. But if you like your alpha's alpha, I don't hold back. I didn't sugarcoat much in this book, and I do think in the end Tuck became a better person, but he had to start out as a POS first. So who inspired Anijah? Anijah was, to me, inspired by a lot of very beautiful, put together Black women that I've known in my life. A lot of them have been in Greek life. However, in real life, Greek life is sane. It's not like this. Those people that I know. Hi, Kara. Thank you for joining. So Anijah her aesthetic was kind of like the Black sorority girl aesthetic. However, she is at like a predominantly white institution, like a college in the book that is not historically Black. Still, her appearance and how she looked and all of that was more inspired by what you may think of as a more stereotypical Black sorority girl. So Anijah's very put together. I remember when the presidential election was going on, I know that Vice President Kamala Harris is an AKA, I'm pretty sure. And so there were a lot of people on the internet like Chucks and Pearls. If you can think of that aesthetic, that is kind of what I was going for with Anijah. She dresses up, she's put together. She grew up in a life of privilege as well, but not an old money life of privilege. So it's a little bit different, and she's still obviously in the book faces a lot of racism. So I also wanted to get to any other major book characters who they were inspired by. No one else, I would say, was inspired by anyone or anything specific. I had ideas for what types of people I wanted to have in the book, and they're pretty much all bad. They pretty much are all bad, and most of the other characters in the book, the sorority sisters are trash, the fraternity brothers are sketchy. It was a dark romance, and so the environment in the book was very dark, and it was almost at one point where Tuck and Anijah are kind of the only light in the book, even if they're messy as hell. So I got a few questions from readers that really interested me and piqued my curiosity. I had one comment at one point that was like, this book confirmed I will never allow my children to join Greek life. And I have to tell you that this is not at all what any Greek life that I've heard of is like in reality. I would say it's an exaggeration. So I did have, when I did attend college, a campus social life adjacent to Greek life, I would say. And we did have to watch a lot of anti-hazing videos. And I would say that if anything, I took the stuff I saw in an anti-hazing video that you're not supposed to do, imagined if it was 10 times worse, and put that in the book. So the book definitely is imaginative. It is not authentic representation of Greek life, which is why I created fake Greek life in the book, because I don't want to trash anyone in Greek life. It's just a fictional representation. I know there are some places, obviously, where sororities and fraternities do really messed up stuff, which is why I watched it in the anti-hazing video. And as a dark romance, you want to portray the most messed up stuff, because otherwise it's not a dark romance. So that was going on with that book. So I don't really think university is like this or Greek life is like this. And people were also kind of asking, who enjoys these dark romance books? And well, you guys can tell me if you enjoy dark romance or not, or if you prefer light and fluffy romance or a mix of the two. For me, I like to write dark, read fluffy, and I am okay with that. And sometimes I like to read dark, but that's kind of where I generally fall. So the dynamic in this book between the two main characters is a lot of gruff alpha. It's grumpy sunshine for sure. We have a gruff alpha and a bratty sub. And there is a lot of offensive language. This book is possibly, every time I open this book, I'm like, what was I going through? Because it is offensive. So Kara says, my girlfriend writes dark romance. And yeah, a lot of people write it, and I like writing it. And for me, it's like an escape, a release. It's a way I can kind of have this fictional world to dive into where none of my problems are real. And it's all about, for now I'm writing Mafia, it's all about the mob and mob drama and things like that. So I personally really like writing it and getting into the stories. And I understand, Kara also says I'm in between. And yeah, being in between, I think, is where a lot of people go. So Chanel Jackson writes and reads fluffy, and Daisy Reed says dark romance is my favorite. So we have some variety, and I kind of think we need that variety. I myself, like I said, I'm kind of in the middle. I like to write dark, I like to read fluffy, but I sometimes read dark. So that is where I stand there. So this is definitely potentially offensive if you don't like dark romance. I won't hide it, though, but I do like to, when I start off characters as bad as this, I like to make them grow. So if you want to see a book where there's growth, you're definitely going to find this growth in the series, even if it's novellas, because if you see I start off a book, a lot of readers, they just can't even make it to the growth, and I get it, but I try to make sure all my characters grow, so you don't want to throw the guy in the bin at the end of the book. And so thank you to Kara for reading it, by the way. So I thought today I would read chapter 9 from, I'm pretty sure, the second book in this series. So this is not a very long chapter. So hopefully, it looks like in my copy, it's like 3 pages. So I'm going to get into that. And Chanel Jackson says, I may dabble in the dark at some point. It could be fun. I recommend it. I think reading a couple and then trying to get an idea that you feel really inspired by can be a lot of fun. So I do recommend it. So if anyone comments anything, you guys can keep commenting. After I'm done with the chapter, I will reply to everyone because I'm always trying to get to people. And so hi, Shadu Binu, by the way, thank you for joining. So I just want to get to them at the end. So chapter 9, a slice of humble pie. And this is from Tuck's perspective. How many text messages does it take to win your girl back? I wouldn't know. I'm normally the guy ignoring text messages, not the guy getting ignored. A couple chicks tried taking me home, and they're dressed as yellow creatures from some Disney movie with their asses hanging out of Daisy Dukes. But I'm too depressed to take them up on their offer. Anijah won't forgive me as it is, and she's not like the other chicks in Omega Omega. She's stubborn. She has a mind of her own. She won't obey every word that comes out of my mouth without question. It's weird. I wake up, hungover, and roll over expecting to find the stupid frosh in my bed, but she isn't here, and it's my fault. I, allegedly, sold some friend of hers, and now she won't forgive me. Great. Ugh, I'm a fucking idiot. I groan and roll out of bed and send her another text message. I'm sorry. I missed you in my bed last night. My chest tightens. She left the party with that basketball dickhead. She probably slept with him. I deserve it if she slept with him. I'm a fucking idiot, and she's perfect. Too good for me. It's Sunday, which means she's either sleeping in or she's waking up with her mouth around that 7-foot-tall bastard's dick. Fuck, I hate this. I stumble downstairs to the kitchen where the chefs cook me up a mozzarella omelet and bacon. I need as much as I can get to soak up the alcohol. Chef tries to make conversation, but my head pounds. After breakfast, I go for a run. A horrible idea. I end up making it 5 miles before dry heaving on the side of the road. Whatever. At least I'm training for hockey season. After Thanksgiving break, we kick into top gear for the season, and I'll switch the beer for protein shakes. Anijah hasn't seen my body in peak physical condition yet. Fuck, why am I still thinking about her? She made it clear she doesn't want me. I think my run will end at the house, but next thing I know, I've done a lap around the freshman dorms and some girl smiles and waves as I pass the entrance. I slow down my run and wink at her. Hey. I don't recognize her. Tuck Murphy, right? Yup. I was at your party last night. Her cheeks turn scarlet. Cute. Oh yeah? Did you have a good time? Everyone's saying it's the best party all year. Any guys sketch you out? No, everyone was a perfect gentleman. It was amazing. Cool. Are you going in the building to meet someone? I nod, and she lets me into the building, hanging back outside on her phone. That was easy. Too easy. But I shouldn't be here. Anijah won't want me creeping around, and she won't want me sprinting up to her bedroom and knocking on the door. But here I am. I knock, and she opens the door, surprised. Tuck! She's surprised, but she doesn't kick me in the nuts, which is a good first step. She steps outside and closes the door behind her. What, do you have a guy in there? She folds her arms, and I've returned the scowl to her face. Already. No, she hisses. Not like it's any of your business. We aren't together. I bite on my lower lip to stop myself from saying something stupid. We don't have to hide anymore. We don't have to pretend. Why doesn't she understand? Anijah, what do you want, Tuck? You didn't answer my texts. Because I'm mad at you. Get a clue. I apologized. Great, I'm still mad. Are you going to make me beg? She smirks. You would never beg, she accuses. And she's right. Fine, I won't beg then, but I want to talk to you. We can't. My roommate's sleeping. My chest tightens. So you want me to leave? I didn't say that. Let's take your car. I didn't drive. Is that why you're all gross and sweaty? Anijah wrinkles her nose. Yeah. I rip my shirt off because she's right. I am gross. And my shirt's sticking to me and getting me cold. She gasps and rolls her eyes, catching herself in the act. Did you think that little taking your shirt off trick would work? What? Taking your shirt off so I can see your stupid abs? You don't think they're stupid, Frosh. Whatever. You're telling me you ran all the way over here like you're in some 80s rom-com? I went on a run. This was on my way home. I try to play it cool. She doesn't believe me, which is fine because I'm not exactly telling the truth. You are such a liar. Yeah. Fine. I'll walk with you. Okay, thanks. She rolls her eyes. Your humble servant act isn't working, by the way. I know you'll change the second you get what I want. And what do I want, Frosh? Another mare in your stable? She says. I laugh hard, nearly doubling over. She's crazy. I sling my sweaty shirt over my neck and she wrinkles her nose. My stable, you say? You like it, having tons of women all over you? Did you go home with anyone last night? I grab her shoulders and stop her in the hallway. I can't go home with anyone else when I'm hung up on you. That's it then? You're hung up? Tell me what I need to do. Make me do whatever you need. I need to win you over, Anijah. I need to. So that is the end of the chapter. I picked this chapter at random this morning. I wanted a moment that didn't have too much swearing between them and wasn't too negative. So at this point, we see a little bit. And by the way, hi, Swirl Queen. I see everyone's username. Sometimes I'm just reading the first bit just for speed. But that was a little bit of the chapter. And hello and thank you to everyone. I'm still going to keep talking a little bit. I just need a little sip of coffee. So I thought this was a sweet little chapter. Thank you, Sean L. Jackson, to show, at least, especially if you've read just the beginning, that Tuck does have his moments where he's not a complete D-bag. So I do admit that he's effed up. I'm with the readers who are like, I've questioned everything when I read this book. I'm like, yeah, I questioned myself when I wrote this. What's wrong with me? But Tuck was doing something for me. He was working for me in that way. And so I hope he works for you as well. So now that we talked about that book, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some more reader interaction I've done. And you guys can share your opinions of things as you're watching live or after. But I wanted to talk about a couple of the polls that I've run on Facebook asking you guys your different opinions. So hi, Sandra Love, by Love Dub 6, by the way. Thank you for joining. So I asked on Facebook, which one trope has to go forever? Which is it? And if you have an answer, you can comment and then I'll tell you what everyone said. So one has to go forever. Age gap, pregnancy, babies, whatnot, second chance, arranged marriage, fake relationship. You have to get rid of one of these forever. Which one would you get rid of? And Kara says, never question yourself, write what feels good to you. Thank you. I do try to do that, but it can be hard not to question. So the trope that people voted most to get rid of is 46% of people wanted no more pregnancy, impregnation, and babies. And then the next one was people were done with age gap and second chance. So out of these three, I wanted to know which one would you get rid of forever if you're watching this? Age gap, pregnancy, or second chance? And Chanel, just to get to that comment, Chanel Jackson says, though I've not written dark, come to think of it, a lot of the drama I watch is dark as hell. Yeah, I can be like that too, where I alternate between really dark movies or really dramatic movies and then romantic comedies. So for me, it's like an even split. So Kara and Daisy say they're done with age gap. And I know I've already on another live people who said this. I said, yeah, I have a couple more coming out, but honestly, I am slightly getting sick of it. I hope that I can find a way to switch it up and make it more entertaining in the ones I have planned. But I'm kind of with you guys. I'm on the fence on pregnancy, impregnation, and babies. Like, I definitely agree with not every book needs to end with them having a baby and getting married and all of that. And I have to be honest, the reason I changed it was when I started doing more variety in the endings, I would just get so many more complaints. So now I think I'm going to, after this series is done, which I already have all planned out, it's going to be more some have kids, some don't in the future. And so we have Kara, Daisy, and Anointed One saying age gap, and then Kara saying, I write dark to light, it'll start dark but ends up light. I think that's kind of where, because I have an HEA, I would say mine maybe end up on the light side. I feel like my last chapters, except the cliffhanger part, can be really light. So I think, yeah, we're getting some good insight. And Swirl Queen says age gap as well. So that was interesting to me, and thank you guys for writing your opinions below. The next poll that I had that I wanted to talk about was, okay, which taboo relationship would you vote for? So which one are you saying, yes, I want this in a BWWM romance? So are you voting for father's best friend, brother's best friend's brother, best friend, or best friend's father? So if you need me to repeat that, by the way, you can type and I will repeat those. So what most people said is the relationship they most wanted to see in a swirl romance was father's best friend. And then the next one was brother's best friend. So out of these two, whether you're watching live or after, which one do you think you would prefer to read? A father's best friend romance or a brother's best friend romance? For me, I think they both, you guys can comment, by the way, I'm just going to talk and give people time to think and catch up a little. I think for me, I kind of like the brother's best friend a little more because he's a similar age to you, and there could be this whole thing where he's always coming over to your house and there are these hidden feelings and your brother's gonna F him up. So that's why I kind of lean more towards that one. Hi, Annie B. and Daisy and Kara and Anointed One. Everyone says brother's best friend. It's like you guys really are in my mind a little bit because we're totally in agreement. I like that one more. Father's best friend could be cool, but there's a part of me that's like, what you doing? Like, why are you looking at your best friend's daughter like that? Now, I know that I'm one to talk. If you've read Purchase for Pregnancy or any of my age gap romances, you may be like, well, so you have a problem with father's best friend? No, I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying I would still write it. But there's just a little part of me that's like, I don't like this man. So I too vote for brother's best friend. I obviously think if I wanted to write a father's best friend, I would try to make him really hot and make it not feel sketchy. But that's kind of why I lean more to brother's best friend. So, and again, Sandra Love Dub says brother's best friend too. So the next one, I'm going to go right over this next question. I asked people if they read books anywhere other than Amazon, and the most popular answer after Amazon only was iBooks. And yes, I agree, Kara, it is a taboo subject. And I think, you know, for the purposes of a romance novel, I'm totally fine with writing like a father's best friend, you're over 18. I think it's cool. It's just that every time I try to think of a story idea, I get caught up on how this got to be. When would they have interacted for this to happen? And so that's just the only part. But I do write some taboo stories, and if I thought of a really good idea for father's best friend, obviously it won on the Facebook group, I would try to write it. So for both brother and father's best friend, just a little hint to everyone watching, that is going to come on the Zodiac books. So those are most likely where all these like tropes are going to come. So, and yeah, I'm with you. Kara says maybe if the father died first, it's true. Or maybe if like she was a little bit older. So I wouldn't really write like my typical 18-year-old age gaps that I do if it was a father's best friend. I think I would want them to be a little bit older than that, just for my purposes of what plot I think would work best. So then I had a really controversial question that I asked, where you have to make all my future female characters only have one of these characteristics. I will never, this is what I'm feeling. Chanel Jackson says, if the dad had an incredibly young and hot best friend. Now that's the thing, he's gotta be banging. I agree with that. So I will not actually only make all of my characters one of these, but if you had to vote, your character can only be one of these things for the future. So only plus size characters, only dark skinned characters, only financially successful, and this is for the female characters, only petite, only light skinned, or only broke. Now there were some very funny people who wanted all my future characters to be broke, and but I appreciate y'all for being honest, low key. But the majority of people wanted the character in this tide to be a plus sized, financially successful woman, which I think gives me some ideas as what would be some of my popular characters. I don't always write characters financially successful. I would say in which one is it? Long Island Executioner, she is financially successful, and Anointed One says plus size. Oh yeah, and don't forget, you guys can vote for your opinion on this one too. My characters definitely tend to look a certain way, and that is because while I do live in central New York, I actually did not grow up here. I grew up in a majority Black country in the Caribbean, and so I say that because what I see as average is very different from, like, if I had to think of the average person where I live now, it's very different. But the average person where I grew up was kind of maybe had a little extra weight on their bones. They weren't very skinny, they weren't very fat, and they were like a medium dark brown color. That is what I view as the average Black woman's appearance for me growing up. And so a lot of my characters, I try to make them average, as in what were the most common types of looks I saw when I lived in a majority Black country. Antigua here. So I don't want to say where I'm originally from because it's a small country similar to Antigua, further south than Antigua, but not Antigua. And I have written it into books, but I've also written other islands into books. So you're welcome to guess, but I won't tell you if you're right. Not yet. Maybe I'll reveal it at another point in time. So that is definitely, so thank you, Kara, for saying you understand, because that is really, because I know some people are like, well, we want mixed characters and we want petite and we want dark and we want light, and everybody wants something different. And I get that, and I do try to have variety, but it's kind of like if you think of more mainstream romance where the average looking white girl is like a white girl with brown hair. And so when you find a lot of these books like Twilight, like the main character in Twilight, the average in that world is that look. And so a lot of my books, it's like the average world is just what I view, the average woman is who the main character is. So there's some variation, but I definitely have a type, and I wanted to explain to people like why my type is, you know, a medium brown skin, looking with curvy, but not petite, not overweight. So I would definitely want to have some more variety and look into what you guys want to read. So thank you, Anointed One, for saying, I just love reading whatever you write. And so definitely going to see more plus size characters in the future. I think in this next book, I have two in this next series, both books. I want to say books 2 and book 3 both have plus-sized female leads. So Chanel Jackson says, Guyana here, wrote my first book based at home. Now I live in London. I love London so much. I was going to get to London a little bit at the end of this video, but I actually don't know if I have time. So when I do my Ben and Libby series and talk about that, I will talk about my one experience going to London. So Chanel Jackson, I am honestly a little jealous. I like London. So I wanted to talk about a couple more polls here, and then it's summarize and sign off for the day. And yes, that's very true. Black women come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, from light bright to darn near white to black as night. And I like that too. And that's why I do have that variety and try to branch out a little bit. And also I've been really thinking recently, I was at the store and I had seen this doll because I'm early shopping for Christmas gifts for my young cousins and various family members who are like 3-4 years old. And I saw this Barbie sort of doll with vitiligo. And I thought, I've never written a female lead with vitiligo, but I've been thinking of, how can I bring that difference to light? I had a couple readers who wanted more lighter skin characters. I have a light skin character that I'm writing. I think both my ongoing books, I think it's Long Island Butcher and Scorpio King, kind of have a more light skin, like caramel latte skin tone types of leads. So if you want that, let me know. And if I actually could do a whole video on all the plus size leads I have. So I have a lot of that too. And then financially successful versus broke. That would be very entertaining for me to go through because I definitely mix it up. And that's the thing I'm most up and down about because it really depends on the plot. If I feel like it's better for her to be broke, I'm sorry, she's going to be broke. But for example, in Long Island Executioner, she isn't broke. In Pretty Little Monster, she isn't broke. But the other 2 Rockstar books, they are broke. Oops. Redneck Rebels, she's not broke. And I'm trying to think. In Varsity Servant, the female lead is wealthy. So there's a mix. So I'm trying to list the ones who aren't broke, and I'm like, damn, a lot of y'all are broke though. So I definitely do a mix of financially successful and broke, and sometimes it is because I personally just wish that I just feel brokenness inside me. And I feel like in the fantasy, like in Varsity House Pet, for example, Jay swoops in with the big dollars, and sometimes you just see a bill and you're like, I wish there was a very sexy man to pay this bill. And so sometimes that's why a lot of my female characters end up broke, because the brokenness inside me jumps onto the page and I'm working through some stuff. So Kara says, one of my friends, sorry, I'm misreading, wrote a female millionaire. So I don't know if I've done that specifically yet. I can't remember. So I would like to do that though. I think I have one book, but I think I unpublished it. So we can talk about if I have any female millionaires if I go do the research. So hi to Radiant Rapture, by the way, and Rhonda MC76. So this one, I wanted to do this poll question as the last poll, although I have more I could talk about. I'll save them for another video. But the last poll was, I wanted people to vote on if in the books, the man can only, although I did phrase it generally in real life, so you can answer for book life and real life. If a man can only have one, which would you pick? Is he tall, 6'4" plus? Is he well endowed, 7 inches plus? I think we know what I'm talking about. Or is he high income, 500K plus a year? So 46% of women said that their biggest priority was that he was tall, and next was well endowed, and third was high income. So you can vote. I would say if a man can only have one, I am in the well endowed category. I am not a very tall person, and so I do not care. And as for high income, it is just not one of my priorities to be over $500,000 a year. That's a bit much. There's quite a range of incomes under there I'm fine with, so I am going for well endowed. So Kara says, I'm trying to write a regular blue collar guy with everyday struggles and tall. And hi, Shani writes, and yeah, I like writing the regular guys a lot. That's why I have this whole Redneck Rebels, regular guys, and now the Mafia guys aren't really normal at all, but I have the Handyman series, which I wanted to do a video on. with more blue collar guys, and I wanted to expand on it, but I'm always getting on here saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. Time. So hopefully that can come out soon. So this was basically everything that I had to talk about today, which was a lot. We talked about the book of the month, which is over here. It is Cocky Cowboy. It is 99 cents this month, and the ebook version, but you can get the paperback for $7.99, and the audiobook, I do not set the price of the audiobook. Audible does, so I can't tell you how much it costs. I sometimes post links where you can get it for free, and if I'm able to do that at some point during the month, just check on Instagram and I'll have it there. We also talked about my first dark romance series ever, this novella series, Tuck and Anija's Steamy Quartet. And I had so much fun with this book. I talked a lot about it in this video, and I read a sample of it, and then we went through the reader polls, which were really fun. Now, I know I was supposed to come live stream tomorrow at the same time, but I'm actually going to come on in the evening. I will post an announcement for that. I should be on around 6 to 7 p.m. is my goal. I will make a post on here, Facebook, Patreon, just to get the word out. If you watched today's video, thank you very much. Don't forget to check out the books I talked about today, and to pre-order my upcoming releases, The Dirty Contract, which is a Friends to Lovers second chance romance, and Long Island Executioner, which is the first book in my next Mafia romance series. I will save the topic announcement and everything for the video tomorrow. If you stop by to listen to me chat romance and to talk dark romance, I really appreciate it. Everyone who commented and got into the discussion, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming today, and I hope you have a wonderful, blessed Saturday where all the good things happen to you. So with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
She be calling on a Monday, wanna meet on Tuesday, asking me to fix me up real nice. She can wait until the weekend, she wants off the deep end, telling me to bring the stuff I like. I don't wanna let her down, so